It was fun. It was fun. So I'll see you at the next. Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, Chief. Taking care of that.
I'm after you today. Yeah, it was fun. And a lot of people said it was fun. It was just different to like be at work. I know. I know. I love it. I love it. So we'll have to incorporate more arts.
Welcome, everyone. Glad you could be here. We'll start our February work session. We will also have a closed session after this, so be prepared for that. Under recognition, for Thursday, we'll have a recognition of city receiving designation Tree City USA, and also a proclamation for Black History Month. Under new business, today we'll be receiving a result of a Cabarrus County Arts and Prosperities Survey. Lloyd?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Liz is here. She's going to provide this presentation to council. So Liz, if you would.
All right, notes pulled up. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Liz Fitzgerald. I'm the Executive Director of the Cabarrus Arts Council, and really pleased to have this time to share with you the results from the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study that was conducted in 2022. So the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study is an economic and social impact study of the nonprofit arts and culture industry. Cabarrus Arts Council led our local surveying that is part of American for the Arts National Study. So nationwide, there were 373 communities that participated in this. We were one of those communities. Locally, we had 20 arts and culture nonprofit organizations that participated in this study. through reporting on their own budgets. They also collected audience intercept surveys at a variety of events, workshops, and festivals. In total, we were able to collect 823 local audience members. They're reporting on their spending related to their experience of coming to arts and culture events, as well as their impressions of the value of cultural activities in our community. In total, this study found that in Cabarrus County, the sector generated $7.6 million in economic activity during 2022. $7.6 million. $2.1 million is from spending by arts and culture organizations. An additional $5.5 million is from event-related expenditures by the audiences that come to our events. That economic activity generated, supported 111 jobs in Cabarrus. It provided $3.2 million in personal income to residents and generated nearly $1 million in tax revenue for local, state, and federal governments. Nonprofit arts and culture organizations are businesses. We employ people locally, we purchase supplies and services from nearby businesses, and engage in the marketing and promotion of Concord and our region. Our very act of doing business, creating, presenting, exhibiting, and engaging has a positive economic impact in addition to improving our community well-being. Community well-being is always our first reason, but that it has such a positive economic impact is so important to the work that we do as well. And I certainly know it's important to the work you do in deciding how you distribute funds. In Cabarrus County, nonprofit arts and culture organizations spent that estimated $2.1 million, which supported 36 jobs and generated over $413,000 in local, state, and federal government income. The other part of that is through how we drive commerce to other local businesses. When people attend cultural events, they often make an outing of it. They are dining at a restaurant. They are paying for transportation. They're enjoying dessert or drinks after the show. They're returning home to pay for childcare. All of that is also part of how we are driving economic value in our community. Overall, in Cabarrus County, attendees spend $27.18 per person per event beyond the cost of admission. That is not money that is coming to the arts organizations. That is money that is being spent in our community every time somebody comes to an arts organization event. These dollars represent vital income for local merchants and a value add which few industries can compete with. Arts and culture strengthens our visitor economy. In Cabarrus County, 35.2% of attendees are non-local visitors who traveled from outside Cabarrus County to attend our events here. They spend on average about the same as our local residents. And additionally, 82.7% of those non-local attendees, that 35% that is coming from elsewhere, the vast majority of them say the reason that they came to Cabarrus was because of the arts event that they were attending. A vibrant arts and culture community keeps local residents and their discretionary dollars here in our community. When attendees were asked what they would have done if the event where they had been surveyed had not been available, 60.4% of our attendees who live in Cabarrus County said they would have traveled to a different community to attend a similar arts and culture activity. And I know you all know that is a very true reality for us. Attending events in our surrounding counties is very simple for many of our residents to do. We want to make sure that we continue to provide the events here so that they stay at home, that they continue to invest in here. And that adds to the experience of everybody that's attending these events. This is why the Arts Council has really expanded our own offerings through Arts on the Go and other initiatives to really engage all of the neighborhoods and communities that we serve. It's also why we've really increased our funding to other arts organizations. Already this year, we have provided grants to 22 different organizations in Cabarrus for their arts work that they are doing. And that is continuing to grow. Just today, we had our grant panel meeting to select the next round of grant recipients. So that number is going to keep going up this year. And for you all to know, when I came here 2 years ago, we were giving out 12 grants a year. We have more than doubled that this year. Arts and culture organizations are valued as well as being financially beneficial. And our residents in these surveys really reinforce that. They said that the events they attended contribute to community pride in Cabarrus County. 87% of our attendees agreed that the activity or venue where they were surveyed is inspiring a sense of pride in this neighborhood or community. Over 80% said that they feel a great sense of loss if this activity or venue were no longer available. And 4 out of 5 agree that the venue or facility where they were surveyed is an important pillar for them within their community. I think it's really important to note that these were events that people were attending that were both free and wide open to the community, as well as events where folks were paying a ticket and sharing the cost of attending those events. We really make sure that the arts in our community is available to all citizens. We know that the City of Concord has been a consistent advocate and source of support for arts and culture organizations and public art here. And this study really underscores both the return on this investment and the opportunity we have should we increase investments in the Arts Council, in your public art programming, and in initiatives like what you have going at Clearwater Artist Studios. The arts add value to community pride, to youth development, to lifelong learning, to civic engagement, mental health, and a celebration of our cultural diversity. Beyond these necessities, it makes solid business sense too. So I welcome your thoughts and feedback around that. Yeah?
Thoughts?
I love this report. I mean, it is not costing us money. It's raising money for us. What was the taxes that we got from art?
In total, it's just under $1 million when you look at both arts organization spending as well as the spending of audience members when they come to events.
Okay. But thank you for this day. And when I went with JC to the national convention in Kansas City, I got to visit for a couple of hours with somebody from the National Arts Council. I mean, this is a reputable group. It's the biggest group in the country doing this. So I'm glad we were a part of that.
Yeah. This is a fantastic organization. It's one that was very responsive. When we had questions, this information doesn't make sense for our community. They went back and looked at it and adjusted it. So it really is, it is very much reflecting what we saw happening here in Cabarrus County. And I would say it's reflecting that in a pretty conservative way. It is only building on the information of the arts organizations and cultural organizations that participated. We had about 20 organizations, which was really solid, because it's a pretty good investment on the organization's part to participate in this study. But we also know that there are many other organizations that are also doing that work that aren't reflected here. So this is a pretty modest accounting of the economic impact of arts in our community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Any more thoughts? We really appreciate what you're doing. You're a big part of our community, and
Thank you. Thank you.
keep it moving forward.
I'd be remiss if I left without reminding you of the wonderful, wonderful programming that we've got coming up this month that I hope you can take part in. Friday night, we've got Dasana Hanu coming to the Arts Council in the Davis Theater. He is the Piedmont Poet Laureate for North Carolina, doing spoken word poetry with a jazz trio. We also have him performing with a hip hop artist and a local ensemble that is dedicated to performing the work of Black composers. So a big nod and thank you to our friends here who invited us for Black History Month activities with the city. That is a real important piece of the work that we do all year round to really celebrate. We've got Family Day coming up later this month, where we have a Toronto-based puppet theater coming to perform. They're going to be in our schools, but we also have an opportunity in the Davis Theater for families to come out and get to experience that together. And we have a wonderful art exhibit opening up at the end of the month. The other piece that is new that we're doing this year, because we are really committed to making sure that we are raising our funding for arts activities in all ways, is a new partnership with Mental Health America of Central Carolinas. And they approached the Arts Council to really talk about how can we make sure that we tell the story of the importance of arts in addressing mental health in our communities. The arts are many times part of how people cope and live and go on living when they have experienced everyday strife and stress or serious diagnoses, and we know that arts are a really important part of that. And so on February 29th, we are doing Art in Mind and have a wonderful performance and silent auction where you can connect with artists who themselves have been impacted by that work. So thank you all for the work that you make possible through what we're doing.
And thank you, Liz. Okay. All right, item 2, receive a presentation regarding the Local Government Language Access Collaborative.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Calling Jamae. She has a team with her in person, and we also have someone joining us remotely from the UNC School of Government. So Jamae's going to talk about this program and where we are with it for the city. So Jamae, if you would.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Volchinsky, and Ms. Deason. Before I get started and introduce our team of 7 that worked on this very critical project, I want to start by introducing Susan Clifford, who is the program coordinator for the UNC Institute for the Study of Americas. She graciously accepted us into the program, and I think she can do a very good job of explaining what the program even is.
Great, thank you, Jamae. Are y'all able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Jamae, team, and council members. It's really an honor to be here. As Jamae mentioned, my name's Susan Clifford. I'm the Language Access Coordinator with the Institute for the Study of the Americas at UNC Chapel Hill. In January of last year, we launched what we call the Local Government Language Access Collaborative, consisting of local government and community organizations from 9 NC municipalities and counties, including the city of Concord and its very strong partner, El Puente Hispano. In this unique government community collaborative, teams participated in workshops about interpretation and translation, bilingual staff, and multilingual websites. They learned from immigrant leaders and language access practitioners, conducted assessments, and strengthened relationships. And all of their work has culminated into creating a Concord-specific language access plan for expanding communication in languages principally spoken by members of your community. So you may be wondering, why are we focusing on language access? Many of us know that during the COVID pandemic, all levels of government really saw firsthand how clear, accessible communication really benefits all of us. Language access is about public health and public safety. Language access is also a civil right and is critical for customer service and quality assurance, and it is central to equity and inclusion in civic life. Excuse me. The timing of Concord's language access plan really aligns with a larger movement to improve language access at the local, state, and federal level, and is a meaningful and important response to Concord's growing and increasingly diverse population. By adopting this plan, Concord will serve as a leader and a model for other municipalities in North Carolina. And we are just really thankful that Concord chose to be part of this collaborative, and we congratulate the team on their fantastic work. Thank you.
Great. Great. Thank you, Susan. With that, I will introduce the team before I get started. So we have Tammy from Customer Care, who's joining us online today. Oh, Tammy's here. There you go. Sorry. Tammy there in the back. And then Dave and Taylor from Parks and Rec. That's the internal team. And then our extremely important partner and collaborator was El Puente Hispano. So Sandra, Natalie, who couldn't be here today, and then Catherine is here to join us as well. So with that, if we could go to the plan, and then I'll walk us through that. Great, thank you. Okay, so the plan, why does Concord need language access? In addition to what Susan said, as Concord grows, we are welcoming in new neighbors and residents that speak a variety of languages, and we need to be able to meet their needs. So our next portion here is related to key terms and concepts. As we walk through the plan, all of the pages outline language access, language justice, so we wanted to include what those words even mean throughout the plan. Next up, like I mentioned, our demographics. The city of Concord is growing. As Concord grows, the immigrant and refugee populations from Latin America and Asia also continue to grow. And through survey data as well as census data, we learned that we have 3 primary strategic languages that we like to focus on, starting with Spanish in its first year, moving on to Hindi and American Sign Language later on. So the assessment portion of this, again, a lot of census data, which told us how many residents in our community there are, how many speak language or languages other than English, and then how many speak English less than very well. So that's all outlined on this page. The next page outlines what languages are spoken at home, breaking down not only English and languages other than English, Spanish, as well as Asian and Pacific Islander languages. All right, again, from our internal survey where we got feedback from all 20 departments, Spanish, Hindi, and ASL stood out as the top 3 languages that our internal staff are interacting with the most. And then for factor 3, just the nature and importance of the services, the survey revealed that 3 departments in particular are really having heavy contact. Those are police, fire, and communications. And then jumping down to factor 4, just outlines why it was critical for us to partner with El Puente Hispano in this work so that we can make sure the plan is comprehensive and truly meets, again, the needs of the residents. All right, so the proposed policies. This is meant to go into effect in FY25, for which we won a grant of $25,000 to cover at least the onset of a lot of what we hope to incorporate. So first up is the city will begin to notify individuals of their right to language assistance services. Several of our departments receive federal funding, including planning, aviation, transit, housing, and police. So with that, they already have federal mandates and requirements that they need to meet, and ideally we'll start to see other departments incorporate language access more as well. Moving on to the next page, all notices will begin to be translated into those strategic languages, Spanish, Hindi, ASL, again, starting with Spanish in the first year. Moving down, accommodation requests will be listed on the website and available in advance of public meetings, including city council sessions that are open to the public with a requested 10-day deadline of that accommodation request so that we can get an interpreter here if that's what's needed. Moving down, language interpretation and translation services will be offered free of charge. That's a must as a part of the plan. And then the city will begin to translate vital documents and the emergency communications plans into the top identified languages. On the next page, there are a few more of these. The city will continue to offer a bilingual pay incentive. We already do this. We just wanted to reiterate how important it is and make sure our employees know about the incentive and are taking full advantage of that. The city will provide staff with training on language access. Everything from why it's important, but also the importance of plain language. So I'm talking a lot about incorporating Spanish, Hindi, and ASL, but even plain language, recognizing that everything we produce should really be at a 6th grade reading level. The city will make meaningful efforts to communicate with the public using plain language, like I outlined. And then the city will develop an inclusive emergency response plan. And then our last few here, the city will make its best effort to include closed captioning on any city-created video content, so that folks who may not be able to hear a video or access audio for any given reason, they can read the dialogue. And last but not least, any person who feels they've been wronged can go through the Title VI process. All right, so a lot of policies there, definitely open to questions at the end. But really quickly, to sort of guide us through the plan, we've already identified the key languages. Our next step is to identify some verified language service providers, so people who are already trained and certified as translators and interpreters. From there, we hope to provide each department with the tools to track the data. How many documents do they need translated? What's that cost look like, so that we're mindful beyond the grant of what budgetary needs may exist. We hope to develop, like I said, an internal training session, especially for our bilingual employees, but we'd like to ask that each department send at least one colleague to that training. We will continue to work with El Puente through the next fiscal year on this, but hope to incorporate more community partners, including Cabarrus Health Alliance and the county in general. We will annually monitor and update the plan as needed. And last but not least, we'll start to identify large-scale city events that we need to promote in a variety of languages to get a number of residents there. All right, so that is the end of the plan. I'll pause here to see if there are any questions.
Question from council. I do have a question. When you talk about costs, we have this $25,000 grant, is that
Yes.
right? Do we know the total cost that we anticipate to implement this?
That's a great question. I don't have a full guesstimate of the total cost. I do know the biggest chunk of the money will need to go towards the translation of documents and live interpretation. So we've allocated the budget based on that, with $15,000 at a minimum going just towards that. But in subsequent years, unsure, and that's why we'll track what departments need what.
Okay. To me, that's an important element to have,
Absolutely.
to know. Any more questions from council?
Okay. All right, well, thank you all. Thank you, Susan, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Thursday, we'll have department reports from Parks and Rec and Downtown Streetscape update. Public hearing. We have one public hearing this time. Conduct a public hearing and consider adopting a 2024 revision of the City of Concord Comprehensive Transportation Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Philip's going to provide this staff report to council this evening. He'll also remain up here for item number 1 under presentations and petition requests. So Philip, if you would, those 2 items to council, please.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolczynski, Ms. Deason. Again, this is the update, the revision to our comprehensive transportation plan, also known as the CTP. This is our long-range transportation document for roadway improvements as we submit this information to our regional Cabarrus-Rowan MPO group, and then subsequently gets forward on to NCDOT for adoption as well. Our plan does go a little bit further down into one more street level. It's called the major collector level, that last piece there on the key on the map. Everything above that goes to the regional and state level. So again, this map, it shows existing and future alignments of thoroughfares and collector streets, pedestrian improvements, bicycle improvements, as well as transit. So map 1 is what's considered our highway map, our major facility types as DOT defines those. Map 2 is pedestrian bicycle. Even zoomed out like this, it's or expanded here on the screens is obviously hard to see. But essentially, the pedestrian and bike map is a coordination or an extension, if you will, of the open space connectivity plan done with Parks and Rec. Our staff worked with Parks and Rec and made sure those components are incorporated here. And then as well as with transit is page 3 of this plan. So just to hit on a few highlights of what has changed in this revision, most of the changes are on the highway facility map. NCDOT changed some of those facility naming and symbology across the map, so we simply updated those names. Nothing overhaul changed on most of those cross sections, just the naming changed to a major thoroughfare 2-lane or a major thoroughfare multi-lane. Or Boulevard or Expressway. The other major change was, again, that coordination with Parks and Rec to add multi-use paths to the cross-sections where previously it had been kind of a multi-use corridor, meaning it could be a bike lane and sidewalk or multi-use path. It wasn't really defined, so detailed. The spreadsheet that feeds this information in the background gets more into that data. So again, this will, once adopted here, if y'all bless that, we'll then take this to the MPO at our next meeting. It looks like that will be March. And staff level will then recommend that to TAC for you all to take consideration there. So happy to answer any questions. I will add one of the pieces that was added into this thanks to the small area plans was the Concord Farms component. So that's not only added in the highway piece, but it's added in the transit piece as well as a connection. So.
Question from council? Okay, thank you very much. All right, move to presentation of petitions and requests. And you're up with number 1, consider entering into an agreement with North Carolina Department of Transportation.
Thank you again. This is, like I said, it is a municipal agreement for our project. I'll skip a lot of those numbers there, but for the Glen, Kroll, Elm, and Cedar sidewalk project back in December of 2022, you all supported the application for a transportation alternative programs grant fund through the CRMPO. So we took that before them, and that was subsequently approved by NCDOT. So now we're at the phase of municipal agreement. These funds are just for the construction phase. The plans have already been designed internally by our staff, finishing up the right-of-way dedications now. So again, this is just for the construction of the sidewalks, not for the engineering or right-of-way phases. Those dollar amounts is a total estimate for the project of $1.625 million. NCDOT's participation in that is $1.3 million, or 80% of the project. So total from the city is $325,000, or 20% of that project from the transportation fund. Again, motion for Thursday will be to adopt the agreement with NCDOT. Happy to take any questions.
Question from council.
I have one, and you may have shared this in your previous presentation or discussion about this.
Sure.
So the section from Cedar Drive to Beach, I believe, how will that impact the parking spaces at the Glen Center on Cedar? Or will it?
Cedar. Oh, so our design plans just adjusted those parking spaces, working with the property there along beside of the school. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm on the right section there. You said yes, Cedar. So there was some curb work, but the parking spaces still remained on the side of the school. So yeah, we're able to retain that and keep that and fill in that gap of sidewalk. Sure.
Other questions? All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Philip. Number 2, consider authorizing city manager to execute amendment number 2 with the North Apron Access Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Dirk will present this item to council.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Jessen. Request for you today is approve amendment number 2 with TB&E to design the utilities for our new North Apron Road access. The initial design did not include the utilities due to the fact that we really didn't know we were going to get the $5 million from the General Assembly, which we did last year. So we're asking to go ahead and include that in the initial design phase. We think it will get a better interest, better project when we actually advertise for the road, which we anticipate doing sometime this summer, 2024. And the cost for the additional services is under $90,000.
Question from council? All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Number 3, consider awarding 2 bids in the amount of $288,029.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Calling Caleb from the Electric Department to come up and present these 2 items to council. So
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. On January 11th, 2024, the electric department held formal bids for both 48 kV and 15 kV circuit breakers. Schedule 1 was for two 48 kV circuit breakers for Delivery 1 located on Florence Avenue. GE was a low bidder for Schedule 1, however, their bid didn't include all the equipment specified. When we went back to GE and notified them, they withdrew their bid. Siemens was the next lowest bidder at $181,029. Schedule 2 was for four 15 kV circuit breakers for Sub K located at the International Business Park. JST was a low bidder for Schedule 2. When we requested a user and reference list for JST, we requested a user and reference list for JST. However, they did not provide one on time. Therefore, we determined them to be an unresponsive bidder. ABB was the next lowest bidder at $107,056. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 4, consider adopting a bond order authorizing the issuance of utility system revenue bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Jessica to come forward. She's going to handle items 4 and 5.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. This item is a bond order related to our revenue bonds that we'll be issuing in April. Last month, you approved us moving forward and submitting an application to the LGC. That was actually done today. And so this is the next step to adopt the bond order so that we can continue moving forward in that process.
Question from council? All right, thank you. Number 5, consider adopting an updated reimbursement resolution.
Yes, so this item is related to the planned construction of a new Fire Station 6 out at the airport, as well as a communications building. And so we had previously adopted a reimbursement resolution for those projects in June, but the scope of the project has changed a little bit. So based on the advice of our bond attorney, we are doing an updated reimbursement resolution to update the cost, the scope, and the timing of those projects, just so that we ensure that it properly reflects what we know about the project right now. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that update to the reimbursement resolution.
All right, any question from council? All right, thank you very much. Number 6, consider adopting ordinance adding Article 10, social districts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve's going to present this item about the creation of a social district in downtown. So, Steve, if you would.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. Staff has known that council has an interest in social districts, and it's been discussed for some time. We've been holding off on it due to the streetscape, so staff has compiled an ordinance, and the recommendation would be to consider adopting on Thursday with the effective date of August the 1st. That will give substantial completion for the streetscape so that the social district could proceed. So just a little background. It was passed in 2021, so roughly 2.5 years ago. And social districts allow pedestrians to carry open containers from on-premise bars and restaurants out into the public arena, and also into other retailers. So social districts, and this the third one's important, social districts require signage noting the boundaries, the responsible consumption on cups, ABC license, clearly defined days and hours of operation, and posted maps and signage on the boundaries. That is probably the most important one. So the good thing with it being approved by the legislature for 2.5 years, there's a lot of best practices to learn from. So we also met with the merchants on December 11th. It was a well-attended merchant meeting, and got their feedback and input on the plan also. So this is just a map showing the social districts throughout the state. There's roughly 46 of them. These are the cities that have social districts. I'll highlight several that are close to us: Albemarle, Charlotte with Plaza Midwood, which was just recently approved, Cornelius. Davidson has 2 districts, Huntersville, Kannapolis, and Kannapolis was the first one in the state of North Carolina. Norwood, Monroe, and Salisbury. So many of the surrounding cities all have social districts. So as stated, the statutes require a map that will be kept on file. This is the proposed map. It largely follows the municipal service district. I will point out a couple of areas where it deviates. I don't have a clicker here or a mouse, but the Climbing Rose project on Corbin Avenue, which is the 10-unit, 5,000 square foot commercial, that one is incorporated. The law offices on the east side of McCatron, they're in the municipal service district, they're not incorporated. You go down on Church Street, going north, the planned deli restaurant at 24 Church Street, the plans are approved. That one is incorporated, that's a boundary. It omits Central Methodist Church, and then comes down Cabarrus Avenue, and it takes in Carolina Courts, even though Carolina Courts would likely not participate now with their planned additional programming. They could have special events there and want to take advantage of it, so we thought it'd be good to include. It comes up Corbin Street. There is one omission on this map, or error on this map, that we've corrected, but we didn't want to, we caught it, we didn't catch it in time, sent it to IT, and that is the county parking deck will be excluded. We've already corrected the map. We'll get that to Kim. And then as it'll come back down Corbin and tie back in. You do note that Memorial Gardens, City Hall, the courthouse, and the governmental center, your city-county buildings and structures, they are omitted. And we also did not include any churches because churches would not be participating. Now, I say this, that as the social district evolves, then perhaps we would come back and amend the map. Say if a law office on McEachern changed and it became a retail or restaurant, then certainly they'd want to participate. So it's very easy to amend the map. So as stated in the first one, you have to have the map, the statute, and then it has to have the designated times. Based on research, it was recommended for consistency for the police department, for enforcement, and also for the retailers and customers, that you have consistent hours. Don't select 1 hour on Saturday and no one on Monday. Sunday's different. And the hours that we recommend is 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. The majority of the cities in the state are either 11 to 10 or 11 to 11. So that's how we settled on the times. Oops. So with the public assembly, this one's a little wordy, but essentially, if you're in a social district and there's a special event that either overlaps or is adjacent to it, and remember, the way it is now, you can get a special permit for a defined area. So if defined area is in the social district or abuts it, you can take that open beverage into the public assembly, into the permit area, provided they have the right ABC. And it works vice versa. So if you're in a special event, it's adjacent, so it can go crossways. And that is by design, and that is permitted under ABC. And there again, the effective date would be August 1st. The next step that we'll bring back to you is signage. And the reason we're not proposing the signage now is because, as you know, Lindsay is working on a branding effort that involves internal and external stakeholders in downtown. So we want to be able to incorporate that brand into the signs. So we'll bring that back to you whenever we get there. But this is the sign before you from the town of Elon. That's a good visual of how it works, and they have QR codes so that you can scan before you go in, and you'll know where that boundary is. It's also required for enforcement. The other thing that we'll bring back as part of that is to plan with cups and or stickers. You can go either way. And in this one, there's examples from Elon, Monroe, and Raleigh. They're all different, but at the end of the day, the intent of the sticker or writing on the cups would be that if you purchase a drink in a bar and you go out, before you or when you purchase it, the bartender's going to write the date and the time. So if you're out in public, you go into a retailer and say a police officer needs to question you, everything is right there on the cup, which kind of prevents from filling up your QT cup in the car and walking around. So that's the reason for the cups and the stickers. And then this would be the recommendation on Thursday night, and it is Article X. That is not a placeholder. That's where it is, falls in the city code. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, question? Yes, Jennifer?
2 questions. I'm assuming since this is general statute, that enforcement comes from police department? Okay. And then the second is not really a question, it's just I heard on NPR, they did a phenomenal, I don't know if you heard that they interviewed several cities that had done this, and they talked about the importance of social district. This was months ago. The number one thing that was brought up every single time in every city of what went well, what didn't go well, what did you have to adjust, was trash. That was the number one thing that every one of them said. We did not think about the number of receptacles that we needed to. So I'm sure you have all that information, but I am passing that along because that was a really good, and a lot of them actually talked about recycling, that we had to talk about from a cup perspective. It got to the point that trash, did we invest from a city perspective? So just to pass those 2 things along, but that was a really good, that was a couple months ago, but that was a really good show that they did on social district and the impact of the downtowns.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Paige actually sent an email today. It was on social districts nationwide. It's just not in North Carolina. They cited North Carolina, but it was talking about numerous states and the economic impact that is led to within those districts.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that the county parking lot will be off limits, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the city's parking lot?
The cities is not included.
It's not?
No.
Is there any particular reason?
Yeah, the Cabarrus, the Mr. Hyatt or Brian Hyatt parking deck is not in the social district. Yeah.
Oh, it's not?
It's excluded. Yes.
Exclude, okay, gotcha. And who pays for the cups and the stickers or whatever?
That is one of the things that we'll have to bring back to you, and that was kind of what Jennifer was talking about also. So there's different methods. It's normally the merchants that pay for that, whether that is a disposable plastic cup with the stickers, or I think Plaza Midwood, I think they have metal cups for recycling. There is a cost with that. So we'll need to do further research to see if the cities participate in that in any kind of way. So far, the cost is on the merchants because, and that's why the majority of cities do have the disposable see-through cups with the stickers.
Okay, and one more. So if a merchant already has an ABC permit, they will not be required to get like a special permit for
No,
this?
ma'am.
They're covered under that?
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and when the streetscape is done, there will be the encroachment agreements, for outdoor dining and ABC. Their ABC license would cover that encroachment area also, but then whenever it leaves their premise or the encroachment area and is carried on the street, the social district is that legal catch-all that permits it.
John?
Yes, I remember when this was passed. I think it's a good thing. It can have its good and bad points, as everything does. A couple of things, though. We talked about the merchant costs, but I want to get on the inclusion of merchants. It's been a while since this has passed. What are we doing education-wise for the merchants to remind them that this is something we're moving on with?
Yeah, well, we had the merchant meeting with them on December 11th and covered everything. So once this gets approved, then we'll have other meetings to inform them. And something to keep in mind, if a merchant does not want to participate, they don't have to. And some merchants will choose not to. And the merchants that participate will have a little sign or decal in the window that designates that they participate. So if you have a cup and you're coming in off Union Street or Spring Street, whatever, and they do not have that, then they can simply say, we don't permit alcohol within our store. So it's not required for the merchants or restaurants or bars to participate. It's only if they choose to.
Okay, do we also include the inbound merchants that are planning to move into downtown as well?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Any merchant that locates within that district is eligible.
Okay, and just last thing, what's the education of the public besides, I know signage at the store or at the merchant, things of that nature, how we educate the public so they're aware of this, so it's not an overburden on our police department to enforce?
It'll just be through our normal means, the social media, getting information out, newsletters, of course, the bar owners, the restaurant owners, anybody participating also, you know, through their employees that are pouring drinks, serving alcohol. So it's a comprehensive effort. I think the good thing with, especially having Kannapolis, having it in place for 2.5 years, many people are very familiar with Kannapolis. So I think that's going to help us a lot too.
And I think you've hit on the trash and recycling. We
That
got
was
to make
a
sure
good
that we
idea.
cover that.
Yes, sir.
Understand that well.
Yeah.
And the cleanup involved on a daily basis.
Yep. No, that was a good thought.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, note to self.
Yeah. Yes, Lori?
There was some concern at that December 11th meeting from the merchants about like who bears responsibility if someone's overserved at some point. And they had several scenarios that they were thinking about between Little Roberts and some of the other merchants. I'm assuming that somewhere that's been addressed.
Well, that's all part of ABC regulations. The social district doesn't cover that. The social district just allows where you can take the drinks. Over-serving someone, that's a separate issue that can occur inside the premise or if they take it off. So that's really already covered by ABC. In other
Okay.
words, you can't take it out on the sidewalk and then get served on the sidewalk. You get served inside, and ABC covers that.
Okay. There was education to John's point.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Yes, J.C.
Several. Can you go back to the map? A couple questions on the map. Okay. Coming out of our parking deck, city parking deck, there's a little bump out right below where the water tower is that kind of excludes some. What are we doing there? Just cutting off the access from that walkway past the courthouse? You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think that's a dumpster.
Don't reckon a dumpster?
That's really detailed. I don't, yeah. No, I see exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
It's right here, on this side.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, that one.
yeah, that's back behind Hawthorne's and, yeah, that's a, no, that's a.
Okay, here we go. Here
It's
we
an
go.
anomaly. Yeah, if you
You
go-
really know.
We hugged the back of the buildings there because we didn't want to include the alley. We didn't want the alleyway to be part of the
So it's a
social
dead
district,
end
so
each
to
way.
keep people from coming out
Okay.
from there.
And I think I know the answer, but, well, first off, on the county's deck, the wrap, the commercial wrap, will that remain in it? Just the parking will be out of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there any way to include the county's plaza in front of the courthouse and the old courthouse, since those are both, the old courthouse serves alcohol?
There could be, yes.
No, we've talked
Yes,
about
no, there could be.
events on the plaza.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it would be a problem if we can include it.
Right.
If we don't, I think we've got some problems there.
Yeah,
And I
we
think
can-
that may be up to the county.
You're right, we can have a
It's
discussion
the
with
county's
county.
property, so if they say no, I mean, we could
understand that.
include it, and then they could
Yeah.
do it away with it. We could have that conversation.
Yeah, understand. And then on the ordinance itself, and I'm just not clear, it looks pretty clear that if I buy a drink at Little Roberts, I can't take it in any other establishment. But then there's other comments that talk about entering and re-entering.
Yes,
Why
sir.
can you not go in
Yeah.
Arrows if I buy a drink at Little Roberts?
Yeah, let me explain that. So with our ordinance, and our ordinance mirrors to everyone that we found in the state, if you serve alcohol, you could take it in, say, Goldberry, but you wouldn't be able to take it in, say, Streakers, because Streakers serves. Those that serve don't want someone else's alcohol beverage to come in, and that's what we found consistently across the state. So if you leave, say, Little Roberts, you go to Goldberry, but then you go to Churros and want to sit out and have a drink, then you would not be allowed to take it in under this ordinance. And that's what we found very, very consistently across the state.
Got to chug it before you go in.
Yes, sir.
Last question. You say the ordinance is effective August 1, 24. Where did that date come from?
That is because we expect substantial completion of the streetscape about that time.
And the apartments and the courthouse?
Yes, sir.
If we're not, will we postpone that to not have this during construction?
We could. We feel very confident at this point where they are within the construction based on the courthouse.
That we will
timeline.
be?
We feel very confident right now. Now.
Just
if it
not
starts-
comfortable with people drinking, walking
Right.
around a construction site.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We understand.
I won't go any further than why I'm not
Wait, wait.
comfortable with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a story here we haven't heard?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, that would be one of those things. What if it started raining the whole month of April and there was no progress made? I mean, we could simply come back and ask you to delay it until September or October.
Gotcha. Any more questions? All right. Steve, thank you very much.
Thank
You and
you.
your staff. Number 7, consider approving the Concord co-sponsorship application for annual recurring events.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Calling Ian to come up and present this item to council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Golchinsky, and Ms. Deason. In 2023, City Council approved multiple co-sponsorship applications, 3 of which are events that occur annually. In 2024, these events will include the Concord International Festival in October and the 2 art walks on Union scheduled for April and September, as well as the MLK Junior March and wreath laying ceremony in January of 25. We're asking that you consider these events for approval for the coming year. Applicants will still be required to submit the required application and supporting documents for review as they are now. These applications will only be brought back before council if there's a substantial increase in cost for the in-kind services that are being requested. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, any question from council? Yes, sir, John.
Just one, that's a good process, I think. Will it come up on the consent agenda, or will it just flow through and just be something that we know is going to happen?
On these 3 events here, if you approve this on Thursday night, you would not see these again at all on any agenda item unless there's substantial change to what the in-kind services that they're requesting, because we know these are always and always will be city co-sponsored events. So we're trying to free up the agenda, if you will, instead of having to bring it back to you as an item. We know it's quote-unquote an automatic approval by council.
And the staff will continue to review those applications to make sure everything is the same as previous requests.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have a question? All right, thank you very much. Number 8, consider approving a benefit plan rate for the City of Concord fiscal year 25.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Calling Chantel, and I think Dominique is here from Gallagher to talk about the proposed plan for the upcoming fiscal year.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. Before you, in your packet, you have the FY '25 benefits recommendation. Today, we have Dominique Palmer from Gallagher with us to discuss what's outlined in those recommendations.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. Each year at this time, Gallagher and the benefits team will do some benchmarking. We'll do our underwriting to look at benefits overall for their market competitiveness and making sure that we're offering a comprehensive package to coworkers. So specific to the medical plan, we are happy to share with you that the plans have continued to perform well. So we have the 3 medical plans. So we're proposing no changes, not only to benefits, so we'll continue the same medical plans, but we will also continue the coworker contributions because due to the favorable plan performance, we're proposing a budget with no increase to the city. Additionally, I'd like to point out we are expanding on the dental side to offer a new dental plan, giving coworkers more choice. We have in the past offered one dental plan. So we're proposing a maintaining the existing dental contributions for the plan that's in place today with one slight modification, and then a buy-up plan with a modest coworker increase cost compared to the base or the existing plan. Additionally, we have surveyed coworkers over the last year and a half, getting their feedback, understanding their priorities and what's important to them with respect to benefits. So we're rolling out pet insurance, which is a coworker paid benefit, so it does not impact the city's budget. But again, if a coworker has interest and wants additional coverage for a pet, they're able to get coverage at a discounted rate because it's part of a group package. And then we're also starting conversations, so this will be a longer play with childcare options for coworkers within the city. At this time, I welcome your questions, feedback, and comments.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council?
What is a buy-up plan? What,
So the base plan would be the existing plan, and then they could pay a little bit more to get more benefits or enhanced benefits. And I'll tell you specifically, it's related to orthodontia, which in the past was only covered for dependent children, and we would always hear, what about us? So that buy-up plan will have a higher benefit in terms of the lifetime maximum for orthodontia, but also coworkers and their spouses would have access to that benefit. This is true.
Just one question, again, explain to me the base plan versus the buy-up plan in the dental.
Sure. So the base plan is very similar to your current dental plan. The one slight difference is we're moving orthodontia to the buy-up plan. So it's a richer benefit, which then has for anyone in the family. And then instead of $750 as the lifetime maximum for orthodontia, we've increased that. So they have a better benefit, and they'll just pay a little bit more
Okay.
if that's what they need for their family.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? All right, thank you for being here. Appreciate that.
No problem. See you Thursday.
All right. Number 9, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Double D Construction Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jackie's going to come up and cover items 9 and 10 to close out the regular agenda this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolczynski, and Ms. Deason. Tonight, I ask you to consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Double D Construction Services for the asbestos abatement and demo of city-owned buildings at 228, 234, and 240 McGill Avenue. So these buildings have a combined area of 8,789 square feet and are in poor structural condition. The project consists of the abatement of asbestos-containing materials, demolition and disposal of the buildings, the filling in of any voids left after the demo, and the project was publicly bid, and 5 were received. The lowest responsive bidder was Double D at $132,000. Any questions on that one?
So this will be our first project, first part of this project going on.
Yes, sir.
Questions? All right,
All righty.
thank you very much.
Number 10 is the consideration of a preliminary application from Bond Real Estate. Bond Real Estate has submitted the application to receive water service outside of the city limits. This is 2701 Derrida Road. It is zoned LI Limited Industrial. The parcel is contiguous to the city limits and is already served by sewer. The existing well is failing. So the motion is going to be to accept the preliminary application and have the owner proceed to the final application phase, including annexation.
Interesting. Any comments? All right, thank you very much. Anyone like to bring anything out of the consent agenda? Nothing to be moved, okay. Before we go into closed session, I'd like to see if council would like to have small group discussions with Geraldine in regards to our strategic plan before we have our next session, and I guess it's two weeks they're having that. We had talked about having small groups with Geraldine. We don't have to have it, but do we want to schedule that? Well, just, we had talked in the past, and I hadn't followed up with you on the small group. I had no feedback. Just want to make sure that,
Groups or a small group? Because I was thinking there was a group identified that we
small
had
group
talked
discussion, I'm
about.
sorry, a small group discussion.
Okay, because we had agreed on that, I think last time that it was, I know it was me, the three of us.
Yeah.
And we had even said a Zoom could be an option if that was,
Is
was
that-
easier for her.
Is that on the 20th? Is that what we talked about?
It's the CUC.
No, a different one, hold on.
Got an email that
Hold on.
meeting with Geraldine was being scheduled, Kim shaking
Yeah.
her head. I think.
Yeah. But it hasn't been.
I've got, yes, CUC is 20th. Okay. The answer is yes, so we'll get that. We'll try to get that. And we wanted to do this before the meeting in 2 weeks, so I don't know how everybody's calendar is. So Kim, if we can do your magic to try to find a time that we can get together.
Zoom is fine, Bill, for that.
Well, I mean, still, but just, we got to have the time that people don't have meetings. So I'll let Kim work with us to get that with Geraldine, okay? All right. Anything else before we go into closed session? I need a motion to move to go into closed session pursuant to NC General Statutes 143, 318, 11A, 3 and 4 to consult with an attorney to protect attorney-client privilege and to give instruction concerning the judicial action titled City of Concord versus Barbara Scotia College Incorporated, and discuss the location, expansion of industries and other businesses in the area served by this public body. Is there a motion? Second? All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you very much. We are in closed session. Everybody have a good evening.